We're always told that if you want people to trust you, you have to be honest, right? But what if we've got that backwards? Today we're looking at some fascinating research that suggests trusting kids might actually be the secret to making them more honest.
Yeah, think about it. The classic advice is be honest and then you'll earn trust. But does it work the other way around? Can showing someone that you trust them actually create honesty?
Well, that's exactly what an international team of researchers wanted to find out. We've got folks from Hangzhou Normal University, Heidelberg University, Harvard University, and the University of Toronto all teaming up. And they came up with a really clever experiment to see what happens when you put trust to the test. So how'd they do it? With something they called the cheating test. Okay, so picture this. You have a child, around 5 or 6 years old, sitting in a quiet room for a little math test. Everything seems totally normal, just the kid and the researcher. But here's the twist. The test was designed to be a little tricky. The first few questions, no problem for a 5 or 6-year-old. But the very last one, well, it was basically impossible to answer without some help. And this is where it gets interesting. The researcher leaves the room for a minute. But first, they put the answer key on a different table, just sitting there. So now the child is alone, stuck on this impossible question. And the answer is right over there. They have a choice to make. So what do you think happened? When left alone with a problem they can't solve and a solution that's just a quick peek away, what would a kid do, when they think nobody's looking? All right, so here's where we get to the results. And they are pretty surprising. See, the researchers didn't just have one group of kids, they had two. And there was just one tiny difference between these two groups. The first group, the control group, just took the test, plain and simple. But for the second group, the trusted group, the researcher did something extra. Before leaving, she'd ask the child for a little bit of help with something, and then she'd say, "I trust you." So, did that one little phrase make a difference? Oh yeah. In the control group, where nothing special was said, about 61% of the kids peeked at the answer key. But in the group that was told, "I trust you," that number dropped all the way down to 34%. Wow, that's a massive drop. I mean, think about that. Just by being told they were trusted, the kids were almost half as likely to cheat. That's some really powerful evidence that just expressing trust can totally change how someone behaves. But good researchers are never satisfied with just one answer. They wanted to dig deeper. What exactly was going on here? Was it the words? Or was it something else? Was it just the fact that the kids were asked to help? Did that make them more cooperative? Or was it those 3 specific words, "I trust you"? So they ran some more studies to figure out what the secret ingredient really was. Okay, let's break this down because this is where it gets really cool. First, they tried asking a group of kids for help, but without saying, "I trust you." What happened? Cheating rates stayed high. So it wasn't just about helping. Then they tried saying, "I trust you to help me." And boom, cheating went down again. But here's the real shocker. They tried telling another group, "I trust you not to cheat." You'd think that would be the most direct way, right? But nope, it didn't work. The cheating rate didn't really change. So what does that tell us? The magic wasn't in telling a kid not to do something wrong. The real power was in trusting them to do something right, to be helpful. This whole thing points to a psychological idea called the reciprocity hypothesis, and it's actually pretty simple. When someone does something nice for us, like showing us they trust us, we feel this natural urge to return the favor, to do something positive back. In this case, that positive action was being honest. So let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway from all this research? The researchers summed it up perfectly. They said that positive messages, especially expressing trust, can have a real positive effect on a child's honesty. It's not about threats, it's about encouragement. Okay, so let's wrap up with the main points. First, just saying you trust someone can actually encourage them to be more honest. Second, it's not about fear, it's about returning a positive gesture, that whole reciprocity thing. Third, and this is the really interesting part, it's more powerful to trust someone to do good than to trust them not to do bad. And finally, this flips our whole idea of honesty on its head. It's a two-way street. Honesty builds trust, for sure, but this shows that trust can also build honesty. This research really gives us something to think about, right? It suggests that maybe the best way to encourage integrity isn't with more rules and warnings, but with more trust. And that leaves us with a big question. How can we start using the power of expressed trust in our own lives? Not just with kids, but with everyone around us. Thanks for tuning in.